Namaskar. Good morning to all my teacher participants. I am Dr. Shipra Jain and I am working as assistant professor in Department of Economics, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. Well, before I begin my discourse, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the organizers for choosing such an appropriate theme for the ongoing faculty development program, Impact of COVID-19 on Indian economy. This is a crisis which none of us have ever faced in our lives, and neither any one of us have ever expected that something like this can even occur, where the entire economies are put under a situation called lockdown. Everyone is trying to understand this crisis in their own ways and trying to figure out the solutions to the crisis. So having a course at this time is very, very important because we as the faculties are not only the individuals, but we are also a channel between our students and the government on the other hand. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude for having me as a resource person on this faculty development program. So now, as I've been told that we are on the end of this faculty development program, so I'm sure by now you all must have developed some understanding about the underlying issues and its effect on our Indian economy. So today, when I was asked for a topic, I just thought that it should be something very different, which has not been touched upon so far. So after giving a thought, I thought that let me take this opportunity to make you understand how COVID-19, how this crisis can affect our business sector. So let us begin my discourse, and I'll take you to my slides, which will help both of us, like the participants and even to me as a resource person, to be focused and to give a perfect direction to my lecture. And for you also, it will be easy to be, when you have a PPT along with you, so it becomes a little easy to focus rather than just hearing to a person for one long hour. It gets really boring, that I know. So yes, my specific topic is COVID-19 and business environment, impact and coping strategies. So let us first begin with the slide. Okay. So as a faculty, I'm sure all of you must be doing this thing. Before you start your topic, it's always, it's our habit, it's customary to just have a look back on whatever has been done. So what I'm trying to do as a recap is the crisis is discussing this COVID-19, which you all must have been, understood so far. But let me just give you a very, very brief and a quick idea of what this crisis, or how do I as an individual look towards this crisis. First of all, the unique thing about this COVID-19 is it has happened, it has occurred to one of the economies, to one of the largest economies, and then it's spreading to different parts of the world. But with its spread, it is also changing its own dynamics. It is still evolving. And when something is still evolving, it gets really difficult to trace that issue and to address it. So this pandemic is still continues to evolve. That means in a near future, it is really difficult to find a solution to this crisis. And even if we are finding a solution to a particular type of COVID-19, you are not sure that it will not reoccur in a different and a modified version, because that's what we are seeing as of now. When we talk about its medical treatment, or I would say that the another issue which is important to deal with is about its treatment. We are still not come up with a vaccine or with a treatment or with a drugs that can diagnose, that can address or that can treat a patient with COVID-19. Of course, the treatment rate, the recovery rate is quite high, thankfully, as compared to fatality rates. But the treatment that has been given is mostly trial and tested. it's working on some of the people, but it is not working on other group of people. So we still need to figure out the exact treatment or the drug that can address this issue for all those who are suffering from this disease. Now, another different and a unique characteristic of this crisis comes in the form of its diagnosis. When I say diagnosis, so this is kind of a disease where the symptoms actually takes time from, let's say, 4 days to 14 days to actually come up and then go for the diagnosis if you are suffering from COVID-19 or no. So this gap of 1 to 14 days, or let's say 4 to 14 days, is quite a number of days. During these days, of course, the economy is going under a situation of lockdown, which is now being easing down as we are progressing towards fourth phase of lockdown. But still, when this is a time period of, there is a time period of 10 to 15 days involved in between, a person gets to interact with a lot of other people. So by the time you will get to know that you are suffering from this disease or you are not suffering from this disease, you might have contacted a lot of other people. And then comes to its cost. Cost, yes, I agree that when you talk about the direct cost is certainly not as high as your indirect costs are concerned, which are very difficult to measure at the first place, but they have a long lasting implications and effects on your overall cost structure. So cost is another issue that we need to deal with. And so finally, all of these things brings us down to a point where we are emphasizing repeatedly that precautions are much better than treatment. And what precautions the government is asking you is you just have to maintain proper hygiene. Whenever you are eating something, wash your hands and then try to maintain distance from the person who is having cold and cough and something like this. And because of all of these things, we are having a faculty development program through using the use of digital world. Okay, so the only thing that we are asking, or the governments are asking from people, is to take adequate precautions, to take adequate preventive measures to ensure that this epidemic does not spread further. So this is about the COVID-19 as per my understanding is concerned. There is nothing to be afraid of. It's just that we need to be really cautious enough and we need to take care of ourselves by doing some basic things. Okay, now let us understand. Okay, so now let us understand how it is impacting our economy as a whole. So basically, if you have to talk about its impact assessment, it hovers around three themes. First, health. Second, your industries or business. I have put in intentionally because my topic is talking about businesses. And third is the economy, because the overall impact of health and business industry comes down to your economy. So these are the three headings under which one can understand the impact of COVID-19. I will be talking about business and industries as my topic has, as I have already introduced my topic to you guys. Okay. So let us now understand what this business environment means. When I'm using this in my topic, I should make myself very clear with this term. See, whenever you talk about environment, okay, environment is something that we all must have studied in our school days. So environment is something which envelopes us, which is all over around us, on which we depend. That becomes your environment. When you talk about business environment, so in business environment also, it includes all the factors, all the possible factors which are not just internal to it, but all those factors which are external to that business also. When I'm saying this word external, what I'm essentially meaning here is there are factors which are external to your control, which are beyond your control. You probably are not able to control all of those things, but they do have an effect on your performance. They do affect your turnovers, they do affect your profit margins. So all the internal factors as well as external factors, clubbing them together forms your business environment. So it basically includes your individuals. Your individuals could be anyone. It could be your suppliers, it could be your competitors, it could be your consumers. So even your suppliers and competitors, I need not to explain how they affect your business environment or how do they affect your businesses. Then moving on to institutions. Yes, institutions are also the part of your business environment. Your institutions have an immense role to play in. For example, the governments. Now this time the governments are coming up. The government of India has come up with a lot of economic packages for the businesses also. also. There are packages specifically focused on MSME sector. So whatever packages government is offering, it affects your business policies. It affects how will you create or generate or get some, how will you ensure its outflow. So whatever government policies, they do have an effect on your business, and these are the things which are beyond your control. You cannot influence government theoretically. Now, when I'm talking about monetary institutions, yes, for example, RBI revise its rates time and again. So the revision of those rates have a direct effect on your businesses because these directly affect your credit creation. Then there are other forces also, and the most important force is your economic conditions. How are your economic conditions going on? We are talking of all of these things today in this hour because the economic conditions are not what they were few months back. They are changing rapidly, and the way they are changing is something which we are not even able to trace, and we are not able to say how it will unfold in the next few months to come. So ultimately, basically, all these factors, all these individuals, institutions, and other forces, they are basically what they are trying to tell you. They are just explaining you that all the factors which are within the business or even outside the business, whether they are within the control of the business entrepreneurs or the business houses, or whether they are beyond the control of the entrepreneurs or the business houses, but the business has a dependency on all of these things, defines its environment. And when I'm saying dependency ka matlab that they should have an effect on the overall performance of the business as well as on its sustainability. So something, for example, like today, if you are not complying with the government rules and regulations, maybe for this quarter or maybe for this year you may perform good, but in the long run, it will not be a sustainably viable option for you not to comply with the government policies or norms. So all of these things together forms your business environment. All right. Now let us understand how this slowdown or how this COVID-19 crisis has affected the businesses or the economy. So basically, the impact of this crisis on our businesses are actually leading us towards an economic slowdown. Now here I would also like to highlight a point that it's not that before this crisis we were doing exceptionally well and we have almost attained a double digit growth, or we are growing at a rate of 8% or 9%. No, things were not like that. There was already a recession going on at the global level. This crisis has actually intensified the issue. So on this first chart, as you can see here what I am trying to show is these are basically the growth projections by different international organizations. So these are the growth projections for the financial year 2021, except for Moody's and Barclays, who have projected it for the year 2020. The dark green line is showing the projections which were done earlier, that means before this crisis, and the light green line is talking about the projections which have been done now, keeping in mind this crisis. So as you can see, everywhere across all of these 6 organizations, there is a reduction in our GDP. All of them have projected a fall in GDP. Of course, the difference, what they have projected earlier and what they have projected now, the difference hovers around 0.5% to let's say 1.5% or so, which is not huge if you talk about it in relative terms. But if you look it into absolute terms, a growth projection of 6.6% or 6.5% or even 5.6 or 9% was something which was not a very good growth projection. But still, we had such type of projection, which is now further reduced to 5.3 or 5.1%, and Barclays has made it to 5.6%, which has done it to 5.4%. So having a growth rate of around 5 to 6% is something which is not a sign, which is not a good sign of economic recovery, at least for this year and for year to come. Now let us see how this fall in growth projections or how this economic slowdown is affecting our industries or our businesses. So on the other hand, I have given this graph which is talking about the sectoral impact. So you can see that for all of these industries, it is in negative. That means that all of these industries are going to experience, and in fact they are experiencing a slowdown, a major slowdown, and the industry which is adversely affected is automotive. I need not to explain this point. I mean, it's self-explanatory. We can see that people are not, I mean, the situation which is currently going on in our economy. So these types of figures are not something which we cannot expect. Of course, the percentages that we are seeing here are threatening to me. I mean, yes, these are very, see, a growth rate. I mean, the negative growth rate, and negative to the tune of 23% is something which is not a very good sign. Now, let us see what our next slides tells us. In this slide, basically, when I have made myself clear about the quantum of the effect that this COVID-19 has brought on our industries and our businesses, let us understand how, what are the channels which are working behind the curtains and are responsible for having those figures that we have just seen in our previous slides. See, you will get, there are a lot of literatures, there is a lot of articles coming up in the newspapers which are coming out with a lot of other figures and other estimates, but these are the ones which I have taken from Ministry of Statistics and Planning Implementation. So yes, so now let me take you to the links that can help us to understand how this quantum, or how this effect, this huge effect, can be understood. So basically there are 4 links that are, that to my understanding I have felt that are affecting our businesses and industries. So the first link is your supply shocks. When I'm saying as a supply shock, it doesn't mean that the supply shocks to the consumer, even to the industries which are using raw materials as an input, and acquiring those raw materials from different parts of the world, are in a state of stress. For example, your imports are heavily affected. When you are not able to get the import, see, we are getting the imports of those things. The situation when you're importing some of the raw materials, basically those are the raw materials which are efficient in terms of, let's say, their use or in cost or any of the other means. So your imports are severely affected. When your imports are severely affected, of course, your input prices are also being affected. And when your input prices are affected, because your imports are affected, it finally leads you to a situation of reduced profitability. Your profitability gets down when your input prices are not as low as they were before this crisis. So one factor which is affecting your industries, which is affecting your businesses, is the shock, or is the problems that they are facing from the supply side factors. Now let us understand the other very essential tool of an economic analysis, like the supply and demand analysis. So let us see what demand has to do in this. When we talk about demand, so let us, as we have started with imports, so here also we'll continue with exports. So when I'm saying that demand for exports has also gone down, similar as to that of imports, even now, because see, this crisis is not something which is confined only to a one particular territory. It has become a global crisis. So your exports are also getting affected. Second is the restricted movement of the consumer. See, we used to have all these the big stores where you just have to go, you have to enter, you have to pick the items that you would like to buy and just dump it in your basket, and then you'll do the payment. When you are going out to such places, it is most often observed that people end up buying more than what they require. Okay, because sometimes you see a thing and then you just feel like, no, I should also have it. It's okay. Sometimes they give you such offers that maybe you need a small pack, but you end up buying a larger or a bigger pack. But when your movement is restricted, when you cannot go out to explore further, of course, it has an effect on your demand. And not just that, even when your movement is restricted, not your direct demand, but demands for different things that can, actually take you to buy few things, it also gets reduced. So restricted movement is actually responsible for is one of the factors for having lack of demand. Another thing which is very important is your unemployment. Every day or every second day we keep reading on the newspapers that so many people have been fired or unemployment has been increasing to this tune, to this percentages. So I'm not sure, there is always when it comes to statistics, so there is always a way how you can present your numbers. You have to let your data speak for yourself. So I'm not really sure of all of those numbers, but yes, one thing which is very sure of is that there is unemployment is increasing, and not of the people who are working in the corporate sectors or something, but you can see that Indian economy is having a major part of your unorganized sector, and that unorganized sector is adversely affected. So when there is an unemployment, there is lack of income, and there is lack of income, there is bound to have lack of demand. Another thing is, which may not affect directly, but it has a huge impact, is the falling prices of shares. Now, what happens with the shares is, it basically, see, you have invested in the share market, and you know that you have made this investment for, let's say, a year or so, and you're not going to withdraw it. But when you just see that the prices of shares is falling, it's going down and down, so what you feel, you have an impact of that my wealth is being reduced. You're not going to encash it as of now, but this psychological impact of getting your wealth reduced makes you into a person where you would like to restrict your demand until you feel that situations are in control. So this falling prices of shares has an impact on your psychology of feeling rich, wealthy, or no. And this is the sector which is most adversely affected because of the lack of demand, your hospitality and your transportation sector, and particularly your aviation industry. You can see planes lying up. You can see planes just lying there on the airports. None of the airports, at least in India, are working till date. So yes, these are the hospitality sectors. Of course, these are the two sectors which are affected majorly. These are the two businesses which have been affected majorly because of the fall in demand. So how these two links are affecting your businesses, or how COVID-19 is affecting your business through these two links, is explained in this slide. Now, the other two links is your banking and your financial sectors and your oil prices. So oil prices might seem a little off the track, but I'll make an attempt to explain and to convince you why I have taken it here. So when I'm saying that banking and financial sectors, yes, so let us talk about specific to India. So the bank has given moratorium, which is of course very good attempt by the government, because when people are not earning, when they are not getting their regular salaries, of course it gets difficult for them to pay their EMIs. So government has given them that moratorium. See, there are always two sides of the coin, as we say. So if one is getting benefited, of course it is coming at the cost of somebody else. As we say in economics, that there is no free lunch, right? So if you are giving some relaxation to the one party, it will come as a cost to other party. And because my topic is talking about the businesses, so I have taken it in the terms of cost for the businesses. So when you are giving them moratorium, of course those people who have given EMIs, those industries who work on this thing, and I'm not just talking about banks, you have NBFCs, right? You have a lot of other private players who deal in these markets. So having moratorium kind of a thing, of course, restricts the flow of money into their own business, into their own account. So that affects their growth, that affects not even growth, that affects their ongoing business transactions as well, because for them money is the tool in which they are trading in. And then defaulters, yes, there are high chances, there are high expectations of having a huge proportion of defaulters. And defaulters, having huge proportion of defaulters, is of course a problem which we need to address. The MSMEs are in a stressed situations. MSMEs, of course, the government has come up with their packages, but these micro, small, medium enterprises, they already have lack of capital, they already have lack of funds with them, and the ongoing crisis has actually doubled, or not even just doubled, has actually magnified the problems that they are facing. So yes, MSMEs are in a very stressful situation, and when MSMEs are in a stressful situation, down the line it will be transferred to the large and the big corporate houses as well. And then comes to the credit growth. So when I'm talking about the credit growth, when banks are giving moratorium, when you're expecting defaulters, when your existing business are in a stressful condition, credit creation is one thing that becomes really difficult. That becomes very, very difficult. So when you do not see credit creation happening in your economy, of course, you cannot see that, the economy, the businesses are flourishing. They need to have credit. And the last channel is the oil prices. Because see, when you talk about India's import bills, we always focus on our oil prices. And this is, I think, probably has happened for the first time in the history that the oil prices have fallen down, and they have fallen down to the tune of 68.5 per barrel to 28.2 per barrel US dollars. This is a huge gap, like a huge gap. And this is an appropriate opportunity and opportune time for the policymakers to react and ensure that it helps us in handling our twin deficits. When I'm saying twin deficit, I'm basically talking about the fiscal deficit and the current account deficit. So we can, of course, we can take the advantage of this situation to understand and to reduce the deficit problem that the Indian economy faces. Now, let us move on to our next slide. Yeah. So after having those four channels that I've just discussed, one is your supply shocks, another one is your demands, and then your oil prices, and then your banking and the financial sector. So these are the four channels through which our economy, through which this COVID-19 crisis is affecting our economy and our businesses. Now let us specifically understand how China and Indian industries are connected, and how the effect of COVID-19 can be understood through China route. See, there are a lot of things which are going on around this crisis. Some of they feel that it's the brainchild of China, or probably it has controlled it. I mean, we are not really sure of what are the things going on. But one thing which is very sure here is that closure or the reduced economic activity by China or the Chinese government has tremendous impact on Indian industry. If you can see, this is a graph which is on which I'm trying to explain that how the slowdown because of the COVID-19 has impacted Indian industries measured in terms of million US dollars. See, with regard to chemical industries, I've highlighted this. It is to the tune of $129 million. And with regard to textiles and apparels, it is $64 million. Basically, this particular slide also tells you that how much Indian industries are dependent on Chinese imports. When we opened up our economy, when we globalized our economy way back in 1991, so it was done with the spirit that let us take the advantage from each other. If you are producing something in which you have an advantageous position, let the other person also gets benefited out of it. And on that spirit, the world has actually turned down into a closed global village. But now here we can see the repercussions of turning down into a closed global village. We can see that a mere 2% slowdown in Chinese production is estimated to be as close to as US $350 million for Indian industry. And this is a graph which I'm using from the source Asian Development Bank and United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. So this is a scenario which is right there in front of us. This is a huge impact on Indian industries, an impact to the tune of $350 million. We need, there are so many industries which are highly dependent on China. And of course, yes, now gradually we will definitely come out with some other options. We will definitely come out with some other ways to, address this issue. But still, devising those mechanisms, devising those tools will take some time. And the time lag which is involved is going to cost us in huge numbers. So by now we have seen that how COVID-19 is affecting our businesses through whatever channels. Now we are coming towards the second half of the topic, which talks about coping mechanism. When I'm talking about coping mechanism, as I have actually streamlined the four factors through which this crisis is affecting our businesses, in a similar manner, I have actually brought out the coping mechanism in the form of five key areas that needs our attention. That can, if you are paying attention to all of these areas, it will be a strategy to cope and to come out as the success stories after this crisis gets over. So the first strategy or the first key area that becomes very essential in coping mechanism is crisis management and response. This is very, very, very crucial. See, as I have said earlier also in my lecture, that this is something which has happened for the first time. Whatever existing business plans that the businesses are having, they are not designed to address or to even understand or to cope such a typical particular type of crisis which has happened. So now it becomes very essential for the businesses to develop some plans which are very, very specific to any of the crisis that has happened as of now. See, you have a plan which is doing exceptionally well, which is making you earn a lot of profits. All of those things are there, but you should also have some other plan B or plan C or plan D, which you can, which are the plans which have been designed that if in case something goes wrong, something goes which is beyond our expectations, how you are going to address it. Obviously, there will always be a scope of, tailoring them. There's always be a scope of improving them, but you should develop the specific plans. And as of now, they should develop a plan which is very, very specific to understanding, which is very, very specific to handling this issue of COVID-19. Because now we have seen that if something like this happens, most of the governments goes for an option of locking down, or most of the governments, even the people themselves, they restricts their movement. So in that cases, when people are not moving out, when there are problems from the supply side also, how you have to address it. So that how you are managing that crisis and how do you respond to it becomes very important. Another thing, which is the most essential thing, is having effective communication. At this time, this problem is an issue, of course, but people have more of apprehensions. People have more of doubts in them. There is a sense of insecurity that has developed, which needs to be addressed. And that will happen only by having effective communication with all the major stakeholders, be it your directors, be it your workers, be it your suppliers, be it your consumers. You need to have a direct word with them. You need to tell them that this is how this crisis has happened, as all of you know, and this is a strategy through which we are trying to address this issue. And that is how we'll go about further. This will actually reinstate the faith in them once again. So that effective communication becomes very important. Another thing is risk of business disruption. See, each nation is having its own way of handling this issue, and not even nation. If you talk about India as a whole, the states have actually opted. Right now, we have adopted a kind of a federal structure. Each state is handling this issue more or less. We are following this. All of the states are following the guidelines and the strategies that has been shared by central ministry, but still they have their own way of handling it. They have their own set of rules to handle it. Some of the states are like that. If people are arriving on the stations, they are coming by train, so they'll be quarantined in some of the institutions. Some of them are adopting that they'll be home quarantine. Some of them are putting stamps. Some of them are not doing. So everybody is having their own strategy to handle the issues. And when we know this thing, that this is happening, so one thing that the businesses needs to do is to draft area specific policies, to draft area specific plans. For example, like the state of Maharashtra, it is in the red area, and specifically Mumbai. So in Mumbai, you know that the ease of moving out or the doing business and all of this is now not as much as it is in compared to other parts of the country. For example, Kerala is doing exceptionally well. Goa has not reported now any cases. So as per your area in which you are dealing with, you should have a different strategy based on your area, because your area is actually designing or is getting affected by the policies or the COVID-19 strategies. Another thing is your workforce. Workforce is very important. When you're talking about the workforce, see, one thing is that the mobility has been restricted. Now, when we are talking about the coping strategies, of course, this COVID has come and it will also go. It's not, nothing is permanent. So this will also go. And as you know, classicals has always believed, classical economists have always believed that in the long run, everything is good, right? So here also, this crisis will certainly go away, but it has taught you a lesson that, something like this or something, anything can happen, like your mobility can get restricted. So when you know that your mobility can get restricted, you should start uh, opting for remote working, where you are actually today, this, working from home or having these kinds of seminars is an option which is not by choice, but we do not have any other thing. We this is the only option that we are left with. So instead of having the only option left with it, let us make us a choice. Let us start encouraging remote working. Let us start encouraging people to work from home if it is possible. Here you have to restrict their global mobility, and if it is possible, this is something that the businesses should start thinking upon. And when you're talking about the mobility or having remote working, there comes the role of your IT structure. See, you have to when a person is working from home, so he needs all sorts of all sorts of instruments with him. They should be available. If I'm talking about let's say I have to take an online class, so I need to have a laptop. My students also need to have a laptop, to have an internet connection. All of those things are required. So when we talk about the businesses as such, so even their IT structure has to undergo some changes and some modifications to make it possible for an employee to work efficiently and effectively by working from home instead of going out and to an office space or to an office structure. Another thing, another area which is of huge importance is your tax, trade, and regulatory activities or the regulatory areas. What happens? See, okay, as I've mentioned in my previous slide, that the government has given moratorium. When the government has given moratorium, government never ever is trying to say that for these 3 months you do not have to pay EMI. What it is saying, for these 3 months you can postpone your EMIs, right? So you have to pay that. Okay. So here also, when I'm saying tax, trade, and regulatory, what I'm trying to say is that there'll be a lot of benefits which will be given to you in some areas, and there'll be other areas where you will not get any benefit. When it comes to taxes, you should know how you have to manage it, and for businesses it is very, very essential. So when you are designing and devising your coping mechanism should also keep in mind how you have to manage your tax structure, how you have to pay out for your taxes, what are the areas which are likely to get benefit, which are likely to get tax exemption. So you need to manage your tax structure as a whole. Another thing is, when it comes to trade, you have to stabilize your supply chains. The supply shocks were the first of the four channels through which this crisis has affected us, was the supply shock. So you should ensure and stabilize your supply chains. See, we know this thing that even the months to come, and if I'm not exaggerating, let's say maybe a year or so to come, things will take time to adjust. And in this time, in this span of a year or so, your supply shocks, supply disruptions are most likely to occur. So you should, plan your supplies in a way, you should plan your supply chains in a way that if suppose one area, one sector, or one country is locking down or is not able to, provide you with whatever you have demanded, you have another area from where you can, at least for some time, you can manage. So this is how you have to stabilize your supply chains. That's as you must have been, you must be remembering the graph that I've shared a few slides back, where I've shown you the impact of China. A 2% slowdown has costed us to a tune of $315 million. So we should ensure a stabilizing supply chain. And then you should have your direct and indirect taxes compliances. It's similar to your first point. In the first place, I'm asking you to manage your taxes, and in the third point of this tax, trade and regulatory, the businesses should ensure that they are actually complying with all the direct and indirect provisions, all the direct and indirect regulations, measures, whatever government is taking. They are sticking to it. They are adhering to all of those direct and indirect taxation. It is very essential. It is very essential to ensure their sustainability. Okay, so direct and indirect tax compliance become very important. You just cannot use this particular scenario, this particular crisis situation, as an excuse for not following or not keeping up with the compliances. No, this is something that they must do, and it will ensure their sustainability in the years to come. Another thing which is very essential for businesses to keep in mind is fraud detection, because this is the time, and even one of the studies by PwC has shown that in the last few months, online frauds have increased, and they have increased significantly. So when you are allowing your workers, when you are allowing your partners, when you are allowing your managers and whatsoever they are to work from home, of course you are giving them some more permissions to access to resources which otherwise they might not be having it, right? So probably you are opening up those areas also which were never in their control, because now they have no other choice. In this type of a situation, there are high chances of being a victim of such frauds. So you just not only have to ensure, you just not only need to have effective communication with your partners or with your people who compose your environment, how to avoid these things. You should also be in a position to detect frauds before they can hit you. So fraud detection is one thing which will definitely which will be a deciding factor in your coping mechanism. How are you going to addressing it? The firms which are doing exceptionally well at that front, which are able to detect fraud well in advance, will definitely immune themselves from some unintended and unplanned losses. So fraud detection becomes an essential thing. Now moving on to another two areas. One is strategy and another one is finance and liquidity. Strategy becomes very important when I'm talking about the financial modeling. So each firm, each businesses, they have to do their financial modeling. So when they're doing their financial modeling, they should do these exercises keeping in mind the tentative cost that will occur to them because of the situation that we are handling as of now. You just cannot have a financial plan which was working very well for you in the past, will not work for you in this scenario and even in near future. And so you not only have to play with your current financial models, you not only have to do, you not only have to change your financial model currently, but you also need to devise some new models. And when you have to devise new models, see, I'll tell you, I would name that company, but there is one very good company working in India. This is a company which, before this crisis had happened, this was the company which was actually, they used to develop a new model every year for their company. They never relied on the same model for more than a year's time, and that is why this company is amongst one of the best top-notch companies of currently who are working in India and even at the global level. So this strategy is something which needs to be adopted by rest of the businesses as well. You need to explore, you need to devise new models, you need to modify your existing models so that they suit the changing economic conditions. So this is one thing that they really essentially needs to do. And then comes to the financial and liquidity. Yes, at the end of all the businesses, it's the finances and it is the liquidity which matters the most. Because you're so suppose you are into a trading business, customers used to visit your store, they'll buy, they'll get the things, and then they'll move out. A lot of businesses have already come online, they have become online, but still a huge number of businesses were still beyond this reach of online digitization system. So now you need to really carve out your new revenue streams. How if this door to door, not door to door, but yes, if this offline shopping is now restricted, and of course it will take time to get back things to in which shape they were earlier. This will take time, and time is money. So you need to carve out new revenue streams which will help you in managing your expenditures, in managing your cost structure in the present day and in some few more months to come. Another thing that you need to do or to ensure is your capital efficiency. When I say that capital efficiency, see, you have to ensure what is the rate of turnover on your capital which is employed. You need to ensure that even the penny spent is utilized to its utmost efficiency, and this we usually do by minimizing our wastages, by getting rid of those assets which are not giving you profit, or which have become more of a burden. So these are the things that the businesses now needs to look into at frequent intervals with a deeper understanding, because uh, at this time, when we know that liquidity is a problem in the economy as a whole, finance credit creation is a problem in the economy as a whole. So we should ensure that how even a single unit of money spent is ensured that it is efficiently, optimally utilized in your business. So for this, the businesses needs to do this. They need to revisit their accounts. They need to revisit their capital structure quite frequently. The last point is, these are the challenges that this particular disease has brought out to us. But it is in the hands of the businesses, in the hands of the entrepreneurs to convert these challenges into opportunities. Of course, the things that have happened, they have happened all of a sudden, and nobody was prepared. Like, most of us were not prepared that something like this will ever happen. But now, because it has happened, by this now, it's been more than a month that we all have understood that how the governments are addressing to this issue. For the businesses, it is the best opportune time for them to invest carefully. After analyzing, after understanding what has happened, how people have reacted to it, how different organizations have reacted to it, and now accordingly, they can carve out their new plans, they can carve out their new ventures, and convert this challenge into the opportunities. This is how the effect of this crisis can be minimized, and not even just minimized, it can even turns the tables altogether. The things which is coming as a cost, it can suddenly come as a profit, come as an avenue to make or to grow further for businesses, if we take it up in a manner how to find solutions to all of those things and use it as an opportune time. Okay, so now let us see, summarize whatever I have discussed, and let's see how the situation will look like post the crisis. So now post the crisis, you will have a new normal. When I'm saying new normal, I'm trying to highlight a fact here is things that we were doing few months back, which we were normally doing few months back, probably those things will not be now counted as normal in the world post this crisis. You have to come up with something known as new normal. Economies, individuals, organizations, everyone will take our own sweet time in addressing, in moving out of this crisis and designing a new normal life for us. Another thing which is very essential for the businesses is digital transformation. Digital transformation is the need of the hour. And this we even for the education also, there are so many apps that have come up, and they were there before the crisis also, but they were not doing as good as now they are doing. because now we are stepping into a world which is no longer the same world, which is a very different world, a world where we need to understand that maybe sometimes it is, you have to maintain, there is something called social distancing we need to observe. So digital transformation is a must thing, no matter how small or big a business is. This is an option that they need to, explore further in the world post this COVID-19 crisis. Similarly, they have to carve out new structures. They have to alter their cost structures. They have to carve out new revenue streams, because everything is will be defined in a different way in the world which we will be stepping in very soon. They have to, the cost structure will totally change, because earlier when they were having, there were a lot of companies there are companies which were promoting work from home, but still work from home was never the first option for most of the companies. And so when you are having a business kind of a setup, it comes with a cost. You have to hire a place, you have to pay for the electricity bill or for the maintenance bill, you have to have a staff to ensure the regularity, punctuality. You have people who are doing the cleanliness thing, hygiene thing, and you have people who are guarding you. So not only just just your employment in the organized sector, but even your employment in the unorganized sector was also a part of your cost structure. But since working from home has become an option, and it is the only option which is prevailing as of now, we can see. So it is the businesses, they need not to spend a lot of money on their infrastructure. In fact, their infrastructure, it needs to be defined in a different way. So that will have that will have an effect on their cost structure, and that will alter their cost structure. So now the cost which will be saved on this part can be, should be used in another way, probably to carve out new revenue streams, or to take investments into some new other ventures and try and explore. Another thing which is very important, this is one crisis that has happened. This crisis has taught us a lesson. Anything can happen. Mother Nature is supreme. So you should be prepared for additional threats to come. It is not the end of the threats. If anything comes out in future, you should have a separate fund, probably, which you have kept aside for addressing these additional threats. Or maybe you should have another options, where if things turns out of the new normal thing, how will you address them? So one thing you should always be, businesses should have in mind, that they have to be prepared for additional threats which may come. We never know. And the last point is strong communication. This strong communication is something which is, of course, important for the businesses. Like, they should have strong communication with all their stakeholders, be it business partners, general public, employees, directors, shareholders, anybody. Having said this, I also mean that strong communication is something which is important for every sector of the economy, for each section of the society. We really need to talk about this. There is nothing to be feared. The WHO has recently come up with the saying that now we have to learn to live with these crises. So when I'm making such remarks, when such remarks are being made by an organization as WHO, it has some meaning to it. What you have to do is, you have to take certain precautions. The businesses have to redesign their structure. They have to redesign the ways with which they are operating earlier. And this is how you will be able to defeat this crisis and come out as victorious, as successful stories out of this crisis. So strong communication is very, very essential. We need to talk about it. We need to get digitized. We need to accept the fact that now the world in which we will be stepping in will not be the same world as we were living into a few months ago. So I would like to conclude my talk by quoting two quotes by Sri Ratan Tata. There is one quote which has been circulating in all these social medias, but that quote is not a real quote. It's fake. Ratan Tata has never said has never made any such remarks. But these are the two quotes which I found really appropriate for businesses as of now. The first quote talks about ups and downs in life are very important to keep us going, because a straight line, even in an ECG, means we are not alive. So we should, instead of getting, afraid, instead of worrying the business houses that how things will come back to new normalcy, we should understand and we should accept the fact that ups and downfalls are a part of your life. They are part and parcel of your life and of your businesses too. Of course, this time the downfall that has come up was not expected and it has no precedent in history. But still, if this downfall has come up, you are bound to bounce back and move on to an uphill. You are bound to face and experience the upward movement that will happen. The only thing is that we need to handle this crisis in a more appropriate, or you say in being more optimistic in our approach. Another quote that he mentioned: if a founder has passion and innovation, he needs to be supported. This is the most appropriate time when you can actually innovate, when you can actually come out with different new ideas of handling this crisis. This crisis has actually taught us that, please, the time has come when you should actually go away with your traditional ways of doing things. Now you have to define and you have to redefine the existing things and define new ways of doing a particular thing. So this is the time when you can actually come out with their innovations, with their passion, to which they are passionate about. I'm more intuitive than a numbers person. Maybe if you talk about the data, if you talk about in terms of numbers, your plan, your idea does not seem to be viable. But if it has a spark in it, it will work. And I recognize that not all investments are going to be positive. Some may fail, some may have problem for others, for other reasons. That is what life is. Even at this time, if the business enterprises, they try and venture into different areas, it's not, it's not always sure that that your ventures will turn out to be profitable. And it is really okay if the ventures are not turning out to be profitable. It's totally fine. The thing that we need to do, we need to understand is, if this has failed, let us learn from this thing and try in another venture, rather than sitting back and seeing our businesses going down. There are huge hopes. The economies will recover, because this is not the first time that any crisis has hit the economies. Even the Great Depression, when the Great Depression of 1929-39 have occurred, after that we see the rise of Keynesian economics. So if this crisis has come up, it will definitely give rise to a new set of businesses which are now being done with a different approach, with a different attitude, and they will be profitable. So yes, there is no denial in the fact that this crisis has majorly impacted our businesses, their profitability, their cost structure. But the time that has gone by has given adequate time and opportunities to the business entrepreneurs to come out with new ideas of dealing this world, which will be a new normal world. So with this, I would like to say thank you for having your attention. I hope that that I have given some good. There are some takeaways from my lecture. So yes, thank you very much for having me with you.